think business owners are most likely to fail?
Not getting clear on the critical things they need to do in their business. Firstly, that's an important practical point. If they're only interested in their business and don't identify the 100% magic that they bring to the table, they will also almost always fail. They'll run a reasonable business, but they won't run an incredible business. So getting clear on what it is that you do that's magical and then doing a few things that help you get there is important.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of More Clients, Less Effort. In fact, my guest today, Andrew. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Now, you've spent 30 years creating growth and flow in global corporate businesses, with many years leading executive teams and groups of large people to deliver exceptional results. Over the past 12 years alone, you've become a serial entrepreneur, learning firsthand how to improve business owners' lives in the way that it transforms their business for success. Andrew runs monthly meetings where SME owners and corporate executives solve their biggest personal and business issues by working together. This combined with mentoring that improves their lives in ways that improve their business experience. His passion is creating clarity of what are the critical success factors that will ensure future personal and business success, which I love. This is covered by the Alternative Board Gordon and the Corporate Entrepreneur Business. Andrew has a reputation for creating safe conversations and clarity on what business owners and senior leaders need to do to improve their lives in ways that transforms their business experience, converting vision into results in a practical way. He lives with his wife, Jess, in Newport on the northern beaches of Sydney and has 3 adult children. And outside of his work, his passion is creating clarity and presence, working with people to generate growth and flow for them and their businesses, which again, I really love. Andrew, I think one of the things that stands out for me from that is the intersect between business and personal. And I think too often we lose sight that the business is there to serve us and not the other way around. How do you see that?
It's actually one of the tenets of how the Alternative Board works globally. Every time we talk about what we're doing in our business, we get them to talk about personal freedom. And because running your own business, as you are fully aware, often we get stuck in our head. There's so much going on. But what I've realized is that when you start to think about, what do you do when you're with your family and with the people that really matter, and how often do you do that? You just work out how important that is to enjoy life, really. So I think that is the base of everything.
Yeah.
Helping people get out of their head and into their heart. And particularly in the sessions that I run, that's often what creates the magic, because we just don't do it often enough. We just get stuck on the treadmill of everything we have to do.
Yeah. Let's segue just real quick. What is the Alternative Board?
So the Alternative Board is a global franchise business, and it's based geographically. I look after an area of Sydney, just on the north side of Sydney and around the Gordon area. There are around 15,000 businesses in that territory. And what we do at the Alternative Board is get together 8 of those business owners once a month to address their biggest issues together. In between, I'll do a one-on-one mentoring session with them, and we give them a great set of tools to track their business and to set themselves up for success. But the main benefit is the value that gets created by putting 8 people in a room who all run their businesses, have the same issues, same problems, get to know each other well, and hold each other accountable for their business results.
Yeah. So a board in a business context is very much that group of advisors that don't necessarily have a financial interest in your business, but they're to kind of guide and provide a sounding board as much as anything else on the challenges you face, because they've faced them too, haven't they?
Indeed. And in fact, that's where the idea came from in the first place. It was literally someone who'd come from corporate who started running his own business and just found it very lonely. And just having a group of people that ask great questions, that challenge you and make you think differently about your business is really important. That's why we have those non-exec board members on big businesses.
Yeah. So the same principle. It's just making it available to small businesses. How small? Well, like when does someone get big enough to need that group of advisors?
I think anybody that's been running their business for a while needs the group of advisors. Our nominal number is about $500,000 a year, but sometimes someone who's got an idea that's going to get there pretty quickly is perfectly okay. So if you've got a service business, some often $300,000 to $400,000 a year is a pretty good business if you're running your own solo services business. So that's probably the lower limit for us.
Okay. And upper limit? What's the practical?
So we tend to work up to about 100 million, and my biggest clients are generally about 50. And I tend to put the bigger. In fact, I do segregate the boards on size. So more than 10 million to 50 million, they're a bit different to the ones that are maybe 1 to 5 million, and the ones that
are different sort of challenges in
different challenges, different. Yeah, they have different needs. But cash flow, when you're going from $500,000 to $1 million plus, starts to become the issue, doesn't it? So it's really interesting. Everyone has common issues. They all have common issues. So
they've all got cash flow issues.
They all have bad focus. That's right. But particularly in the smaller businesses, as they scale up, that becomes a problem as well.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good to know. You studied business engineering and science at high school and then found yourself working through consumer goods companies in the corporate world. Unilever, Colgate, Mars, dairy farmers. What was it about those things that you've gone, you know what, these are great? And many people spend their whole life working their way up the corporate ladder in big global companies like Unilever. In fact, just recently I learned that Unilever produce 70 billion, with a B, bottles per year, which is an interesting little fact. But you've gone through these in senior roles with Visy in packaging, recycling, and then you've moved on to start your own business. Why the shift from corporate to your own thing, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, interestingly, having done engineering, I very early worked out that I was quite good with concepts and ideas and working with people. Having started working as an engineer, but in doing that, getting into consumer goods marketing, which I really enjoyed on the way through, but literally worked in a whole lot of different roles in those businesses because I kind of liked looking over the fence and finding out more about other stuff. And corporate gave me the opportunity to do that for many years, provided, I guess, a safe environment for my family to grow and my kids. And it challenged me because I often got to look after new bits of business or broken bits of business that needed to be fixed. And I really did enjoy that for many years. But ultimately, I was always someone who was entrepreneurial in a corporate environment. And it took me quite a few years to get to the space where I didn't have demands on me. So my kids were through high school and stuff like that, where I could just say, okay, now's my time. I'm just going to spend my time from 55 through, I'm 61 now, through to 65, just setting up some income streams for the future, but entrepreneurial income streams that very much fit the theme for me of clarity and growth and flow, which has been probably what I've learned. Most of my roles ended up being around that space in my corporate career. So I get to grab those bits of stardust, I guess, and put them together in an environment where I'm an entrepreneur. So, and I've got several businesses I run doing that.
How do you find running multiple businesses? Because the conventional wisdom is build one, right? Yeah. It's like teaching kids to ride, right? If I have to hold the seat and hold them so they don't fall over, I've got to get them long enough until they're stable enough to do it before I start teaching the second one. And if I'm trying to teach two kids to ride at the same time, one of them's going to end up with a skinned knee. How do you manage that?
I actually manage it because my theme is the same for all of them. And I have no need to do all the doing myself. So I genuinely do work out in each of my businesses what it is that I bring to the table that's important. And then I make sure that other people do things that I don't add value to. So that's something probably I did learn in corporate. And it does require a little bit of, I guess you've got to work out how you pay for that and how you make that all happen. But that's more about just bringing enough money in the top to make that happen. Interestingly,
if I can, I just want to drill into that real quick, because I think that's a thing for many small business owners that we really struggle with, to go, where is my business at? And I literally just had a conversation yesterday with someone who was starting work at 11:30 p.m. and working through to 4 p.m., right? So literally sort of 18-hour day, but working through the night, and was just getting to the point where they're going, I think I need a virtual assistant or assistant in some capacity. I'm like, and they're like, I don't know what I'd have them do though. I do wonder whether we get on our little sort of wagon and say, I need to protect everything, and if it's not done my way, it's not going to work. And it is that real challenge, as you talk about sort of the money coming in the top end, that if we create I'm pulling out year 12 economics here, effective specialization, we can actually bring in more money to pay for the things and then to have even more left over, can't we? But it's a real mental shift for an entrepreneur to take as they start to look at what scale looks like in their business.
Interestingly, yeah. Yeah. And for me, I think I probably learned the skill that I have now through going in corporate from managing a couple of people to a team of 5 to a team of 15 to a team of 50 at one stage I was running a business with 14 factories and 1,000 people.
Yeah.
But on the way through each of those steps, you've got to change your approach. You've got to learn to trust. You've got to learn to be clear about what roles are. And what I find a really useful tool we have that we use in the alternative board is what's your to-don't list? What are the things you should?
Ooh, I like that.
So, and it's actually, it helps clear a lot of things up. When you look at what you're doing and then go, well, hang on, there's absolutely no point in me doing this. I have someone who prepares all the bios for the meetings I run and gets me set up for meetings so that I can walk in and literally create transformation for 3 or 4 hours while we run those board meetings. And my mind's fully focused on that. And at the end of the meeting, everyone has a great takeout. And I've learned that I have to do that because if I get stuck in the other stuff, I don't do it well in the first place. And more importantly, I don't get the value. I don't create that head to heart transformation in the meetings that is the magic that literally I do deliver. And even now, in thinking about where I take my business this year, I want to get to a space of not only running 3 or 4 meetings a month, but running maybe 10 to 12 a month, and creating massive transformation through that, because that's what I delight in. It's what I do best. So it's been an interesting journey to work that out.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to look at, and I do love the idea of a to-don't list. In fact, I'm literally taking notes right now going, do a to-don't list.
There was one more. Yeah, sorry, you're about to ask a question.
To look at what you shouldn't do in your business and where the specialization is. And I know for many, many years I was doing the everything. I make the sale, I do the work, and I'm really good at building automated systems for our clients and going, I need that solution and that solution. Very much like you, right? I'm intensely curious person. I'm a little bit of an engineer and love building stuff.
Yeah.
Business to make it work more effectively. And I'm going, how can I make this work? What's my hypothesis? If I apply this here, that'll make that better, right? It's almost the same sort of background in many ways. But one of the hardest things I found was to let go of that and go, as good as I am at that, if I apply my effort at this part of the business, I will get a better result. And I must admit, certainly for the first part of last year, like we were practically doubling month on month, not year on year. We were practically doubling month on month just because of that effective specialization.
Yep.
And we had the team kind of onboarded as well and saying, guys, it's not just me. Right? We've got a collective responsibility to build this so that we can all have jobs.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. Interestingly, I was about to add to that is about 3 years ago, I came across a lady who had come to Australia from South Africa, and she had this idea of finding women, mainly women, who had children, who'd had really good corporate jobs, but didn't want to go back to their corporate jobs. But because they'd had senior or pretty good level corporate roles, were really good at adding value at a higher level to what you would expect from a VA. So literally, I started working with Beth, who now works heavily in my business, and we just took an hour a week. And she said, "Okay, let's work out how I can add value for you to your business." So it started out like that. She does probably about 2 days a week work for me now, and that will definitely grow as the organization grows. But literally, she's got her skill set, I've got mine, and we just worked out what she should be working on. She's a little bit more expensive than a standard Filipino VA, or however some people do it. But I was more focused on just generating, us together, and we just catch up each week and work out how we could create greater value together from what we were doing.
Yeah, it's an important one question to ask of all your employees, not just this is the task I need you to do.
Yeah.
And it's probably a good one to actually put into your recruitment process and your performance review process to say, how have you created value?
Yeah.
In the last quarter, and how do you think you can create value in the next period? Because ultimately that's what we get employees for, to do things we can't do and do them better than we can potentially do them as well.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your systems. How do you run your business? And what's the system that you have that creates value and leverage? for you?
So one of the reasons why I wasn't looking for the alternative board when I came across it, I'd started one or two other businesses out of my corporate life, and I just came across this business, and the tool that they use is probably not like a whole lot of other tools that business coaches would use, but it is pretty simple, and it's been developed and clarified over 30 years. And literally just in a space of, you can probably go through the whole tool in 2 days and come up with a really, really good basic business plan that is going to step change your business in the next year from wherever you want to get to. So that's a really important tool. We call it, in our business, it's called the Business Builder's Blueprint. One or two other people have used that blueprint term before now related to those things, but ours is a global product that we've been using for quite a while. So it's the Alternative Board Business Builder's Blueprint. And at the top, it covers off personal vision and value, personal and business vision, values. We get clear on what we've got, a good business diagnostic. We work out what the critical success factors are for businesses, capture those, put them into a 1 or 2 page plan with accountabilities and goals, and then develop KPIs, and then just have a rotating process of those things. Plus, we have a whole heap of other tools, the blue papers and the white papers and things that can help people with specific issues they've got. So
I'm curious from that perspective, because it's certainly one of my things I've seen having worked with business coaches, and this is an element of peer business coaching as well as business coaching in a sense. It's one thing to have these business plans and SWOT analysis and stuff. Another thing to actually kind of constantly check back against and say, how are we going against our targets? Yeah. How do you see the companies that you work with translating those organizational goals into practical day-to-day for a staff, for an employee?
So we'll tend to, so the advantage of only having 3 to 5 critical success areas is that they can pretty easily work out what they need to do to make those happen, and up on one page. And it's something that doesn't sit in the bottom drawer. It literally is something they look at all the time. They work out which of those 3 to 5 areas they want to do the work on this week, maybe, or this month. And I guess whole objective is to make sure that it's never something that sits in the drawer. It's never just theory. It's absolute practice. And then we operate on 90-day plans. So within the 90-day plan, they will work out what they are genuinely going to focus on out of those 3 to 5 critical success areas. We know what the end focus goal is, but we focus absolutely on what the strategies and actions are and who's accountable within their organization to make all those things happen. Plus run a monthly 1-hour meeting where they just quickly have a look at what they said they were going to do and are they doing it? Where are they at? So it's not rocket science. There will be 1,000 ways to do this, but the process we've got keeps it really simple.
Yeah. Is this something that someone could do outside of an alternative board framework?
I believe they could. The issue they may struggle with is the clarity that I can provide, or that the board can provide each of them when they get their plans together.
Part of that being challenged about it, isn't it? It's not just, and the accountability to it as well. It's not just being accountable to yourself, it's being accountable to other people. You said, I am going to achieve this. And
we even get people when people come up with their plans, we get them to quickly take everybody through them at the end of the year, and everybody votes whether they would be prepared to invest in that business.
Oh, I like that framework. Tell me more about that.
Well, because we've got a year-end review process that does summarize our tool in 1 page and does it pretty quickly within an hour or so, they can go away and do that work. And then literally we just have a board meeting where they come in at a high level, they hit their key points, they tell us where their growth is going to come from, where the change in their business is going to come from. We also really get keen on how their role is going to change. We say, and what was your role this year? How do you want it to change in the next year? And what are you going to do about that? And they usually come up with a set of key actions that are going to change their business, and everybody just forms their view on and challenges them. They don't feel like they're going to deliver on the business. They'll ask tough questions about it and get them to challenge things in their plan.
How important is this? How important is putting a framework, like either individually or through an organisation, through the alternative board, to plan, review? What's the difference that someone expects to see when they do this process?
I think initially they don't always know what they're going to see. So that is interesting. So we'll often start much higher level. I'll often start much higher level. And then over time, as they see the value of doing this almost on an annual basis, well, and for most of them do this on an annual basis, literally using the same process becomes really valuable to them, because I've just got probably one of my most successful members over the last 3.5 years. I spoke to her yesterday, and in the space of an hour, we got really, really clear on some big, hairy goals for her for next year, but still using the same framework. So literally, because we've got a framework in place now, and she's done a whole lot of good work around her values and her vision and where she's heading and what she needs, we've actually quickly identified what the 3 to 5 critical things are and developed some quick action plans that she can put on one page. We created that, and I just sent it through to her because our whole system just allows you to print out what we capture pretty quickly, and just sent that through to her. She's got that printed out. It sits on her desk now for the next 90 minutes while we get through stuff.
Yeah, no, I love it. Love it. Mate, we always finish the show with a bit of a quick fire. I'm going to throw some random questions at you and see how you go at it. Let's start with what do your family think you do?
They think I mentor small business owners and run a gym, own a gym and market consumer goods products.
There we go. They're pretty spot on then. Who's an influential person in your life, and how have they impacted you?
I challenged myself on this question the other day, and virtually none of my business leaders or bosses I'd include in that list. Most of them, the people that have made most impact on me have been my athletics coaches, sporting coaches, and probably given me a spiritual view on the world. So, and probably in my early days, what impacted me most, because I ran 400s at national level as a 19-year-old and 20-year-old, my athletics coach had an incredible impact on me, not only physically, but mentally. And I think my early career, I just pushed through because I'd learned how to get my head in the right place to get to the finish line on a whole lot of things, and then be able to come back tomorrow and do the same thing. I learned a lot.
It was said to me the other day that elite athletes, who achieve at state, national, international level, have this incredible sort of blend of autism and ADHD just to be able to sort of punish themselves over and over again to that particular point.
Even more than that, actually, when I came across meditation 10 or 12 years ago, I realized that when you do a training session and you're doing 16 400s, the last 300 of all of those 400s, you're at a good place, right? But I realized that when I went into meditative space, that's exactly where I used to go to in those days. And I just didn't understand it as that when I was young. So recently I've been very impacted by, I guess, a strong spiritual stream for me, and literally finding my purpose in life, which is to create clarity, growth, and flow. That's what I do.
What's the difference between having a board and board mentor like yourself and having a business coach?
Really interestingly, a lot of business coaches sell their product for a year, and they'll guarantee that it's a full year of business, but often you get the work done in the first 3 months. And that's been my experience. And I spent a lot of money on business coaches. What we do is it's a monthly payment, and they're literally going on a journey, and a lot of the value comes from the 8 other people around the table rather than their mentor. So I'll help them get clear on the few things they need to focus on, but the others help them find not just Band-Aid solutions, really good solutions for their biggest issues every month.
Yeah. What's one thing on your whiteboard for 2025 that wasn't there 30 days ago?
Interestingly, I have a very good process for talking to people. I don't have a very good process for closing people. So getting someone in to help me close business is on my board now.
There we go. Let's go with this one. I said, well, make this a 2-part question, right? What's your favorite productivity hack?
To always begin with the end in mind. So get clear on where I want to get to, and I spend my time understanding that gap, but then today work out what I need to do to start to close that gap.
How do you think AI is going to change the landscape of business operations?
Massively. It's certainly changing search already. But just for example, this week, I just wrote a letter to my members. My brief to ChatGPT was create a fun letter that's going to motivate and challenge my members for this year to be involved and to be engaged and to be excited and to create magic together. And it just created an incredible letter in no time at all. And I've sent it out to my members, and they've loved it. They've responded incredibly well to it. Just empowering me to change. I mean, basically to do things that were much, much slower in the past. What you can create, being able to integrate a whole lot of information to be able to help people create magical visions for themselves all that sort of stuff, just by capturing what we've talked about.
All right, let's finish with this one. Let's go with, where do you think business owners are most likely to fail?
Not getting clear on the critical things they need to do in their business. Firstly, that's an important practical point. If they're only interested in their business and don't identify the 100% magic that they bring to the table, they will also almost always fail. They'll run a reasonable business, but they won't run an incredible business. So getting clear on what it is that you do that's magical, and then doing a few things that help you get there, is important.
Yeah, love it. Andrew, thanks so much for jumping on the call today and sharing your depth of wisdom and advice. Absolute ton of value in that. And I think if you're listening to this and don't have at least that framework that does a little bit of that SWOT analysis, what do I need to achieve, and what are those sort of key levers that you need to be pulling in your business to achieve your goals, both in business and in life in 2025, reach out to Andrew. You can find Andrew on LinkedIn, Andrew Lawrence, tab for the Alternative Board -Gordon-Virtual, or TABAU, so the Alternative Board AU.info/Andrew Lawrence. You can find him there as well. We'll put all those links in the show notes. I know, Andrew, you've got a fantastic gift for our listeners as well. So 20% off the Strategic Alliance Clarity session, usually valued at $550 plus GST, which will help you get some clarity on what it is that you do. Definitely recommend our listeners take advantage of that opportunity there as well. If you haven't, put some thought into what you want to achieve for this year, there's a way to help you do it. Thanks again, mate. Appreciate you jumping on.
Loved it. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Guys, and thanks again for joining us on today's show. As always, if you've enjoyed it, please like, share, follow, and we'll catch you on another episode real soon. Take care.